In 1970, Dodge built 8,574 Charger RTs with a 440 Magnum. Of those, only 1,443 had a 4-speed transmission. That left 7,131 with the automatic transmission. This B7 Blue, white top, white interior, AM8 track air conditioning car is one of them.
Oh, give me a home where the good follow wrong, where the deep and the antelope play.
The worst parts of the Bible have come to fruition.
I think Mark is crazy.
And the skies are not cloudy all day.
I just want to paint cars.
Royal just taking another one for the team.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
My name is Mark Warman. I am the Book of Genesis in the story of graveyard cars.
And I'm Aaron Smith, and I guess that makes me the co-book of Genesis?
No, there are no co-books in the Bible. Maybe you should familiarize yourself a little bit with it. And I guarantee you weren't there at Genesis. You didn't come in until Deuteronomy.
It's not Deuteronomy.
We're here today because this is a very cool episode featuring a very cool car that is finished and has been here for a long time. We have a lot to talk about. When we started going through the old footage of this car, we forgot how much we had done with Alyssa. And it's great to flash back to it, and it's really good data. So we're just gonna kind of help drive that story a little bit and cut some of the silliness out, if you will.
But not too much of the silliness.
No, that's why people tune
silly.
into graveyard cars for the silliness. This is our fender tag. If we read our fender tags like we've learned, bottom to the top, left to right. In this particular case, E86 means it's a 440 Magnum, D32 heavy duty 727 torque flight. XS29 is the first 4 characters of the VIN, means it's a Charger RT. U0G, the U means it's a 440 Magnum, the 0 means it's a 1970, and the G means it was built in St. Louis. The rest of these are the sequence of the VIN. Now the next row up starts getting to color. When you get into color interiors, that's when you tend to start getting into options. This is EB7. The E means that the color first came out in 1969. B7 is the shade of the paint. B7 blue is not a high impact color. It's a beautiful color, but it's not a high impact color. C16 is a center console. C55 is bucket seats. G33 is left-hand outside chrome remote mirror. G31 is the right-hand outside non-remote chrome mirror. H51, air conditioning. All these are gonna have dollars with them. J25, 3-speed wipers. M21, drip trough moldings. M31 belt moldings, N85 tachometer, R22. So let's just go through. We have the basic rundown. B68 means it's a striped elite car. It's a great idea to take the original sales codes and add them all up in the book. So you have your base price for the car, then you have all the sales options on it. Add all of those up, and we saw what that car sold for in 1970. So B51 is your power brakes. In our case, ours is a disc brake car. And if you added disc brakes with power brakes, which is mandatory, $27.90. So you better put $27.90 down there for power disc brakes. All right, and then the next one over is C16. Center console, not available with 3-speed on the column shift, not available with the center front seat, optional with bucket seats, $54.45 is our price to add. G31 is the right-hand outside mirror, $6.85 for G31. And G33, which is the left-hand outside remote control, $10.45. Because remember what we said earlier, a manual outside is standard because it has to have a mirror from the factory. H51, air conditioning with heater, $357.65.
Jeez.
J25 is our 3-speed wipers. standard with a 383 and a 440 RT. According to this, you don't charge extra for it if you have a 383 4-barrel or an RT, so there is no add for J25. M21 is our drip trough moldings. I know those are standard. N85, which is a tachometer with clock, 8-cylinder only, charger and RT models, $68.45 for that little jewel. Now, this is the fun one. R22 AM 8-track, R22 AM stereo with tape, $196.25. That is a cool option right there. V68 means it's striped elite, 26-inch means 26-inch radiator, and end is the last shift of the day. So we're gonna run through and we're gonna add them up. What do we have for a grand total? Grand total, let's run her up.
$4,433.
$4,433 in 1970.
Today,
Yeah.
you'd have to pay $28,987.82 to get that car.
Alyssa and I did that probably in 2018, we guess.
I think about.
So it's 2024. Keep in mind that in today's world, that is $150,000 to a $200,000 car.
Wow.
Which would be, based on our math, a pretty good investment.
Oh yeah, I would say so.
I like watching the old footage, seeing the old employees. George. Curious George, I used to call him. Curious George.
It's money.
It's all nice and consistent. It's ready to weld. This is the original taillight panel, so there's a lot of little extra holes on it, and this is the original quarter. I'm gonna have to weld it in place instead of spot weld it in place this time, which a lot of people are gonna be like, oh, that doesn't look factory, there's only so much I can do. The great thing is, I've got the original taillight panel, I've got the original left-hand quarter, so the more cautious I can be about it, more happy I'm gonna be at the end of the day knowing that it's where it should be and perfect.
Remember that episode where I was doing my David Brent from The Office the first day he showed up here? That was funny. That's plumb crazy.
Why would you do this?
Why are you laughing? I guess you might say we painted him in a bit of a corner.
Yeah,
That
so
was
Will
funny.
didn't think it was funny.
Yeah, Will doesn't have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
That's the problem with Will, is he needs to go out and buy a sense of humor. Okay, my stuff is funny, whether I'm regurgitating it from somebody else who's funny, or whether I'm taking something that isn't funny, like a funeral, and I'm making it funny.
Coming up, the long-lost footage of an engine assembly is unearthed and aired for the first time. But how was this segment tracked down?
It was my idea to look for it because I said it existed and you said it didn't.
Mark takes jabs at his number one as we continue with Body and Paint.
This is all a conspiracy to put Will down. Grow up.
But what happens when Will steps in to defend himself?
Defend yourself from what?
Find out when Graveyard Carz returns.
I'm assembling a pair of rocker shafts for this 440 HP2 engine that I'm working on. And in order to do that, I have to orient the shaft so that the oil passages are facing outside of the engine. So I've got those set up just the way I want them. I've got my left and right shafts positioned the way I want them. And so I have to slide the rockers onto the shafts in pairs. And there's a left and a right. They angle away from each other. If you can see at the bottom, they angle away from each other to set over the top of the valves. In between each of the rockers is a ring that separates them from each other. Then we have different sized bolts, 3 short and 2 long. And the 2 longer bolts set over the oil passages that feed oil to the rocker shafts and the valve train. I will slide the rockers on, put the bolts in place. I'm gonna use some cam lube underneath these rockers to keep them lubricated. So that's basically what I'm working on right now.
So I noticed right here that we're watching a little bit of footage I don't believe I've seen before. Where'd that come from?
You are correct. We dug into the archives and found some stuff that we had
You
never...
dug into the archives. Let's give
and
credit where it's due.
thank
But it was my idea to look for it because I said it existed and you said it didn't. So
I
you were
didn't
wrong.
deny it. I just
Poo,
didn't.
poo,
I
poo.
just hadn't looked yet.
Right.
But okay. But anyway, we found it. We got it together. Our editors put it
Yeah,
together.
you're done talking. Enjoy watching.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that I have the rocker shafts built out with all the rockers, I'm gonna go ahead and install the lifters into the lifter bores in the engine. And then I will put the push rods through the heads, and they will set in top of the hydraulic lifters. The hydraulic lifters sit on top of the camshaft, and they create a hydraulic cushion for the push rods to open and close the valves on top of the head. So now I have the lifters and the push rods in, so I can set the rocker shaft over the top of those on the valves. It's a little tricky because you have to line up all of the push rods in the holes in the top of the rockers, all 8 of them. So after I get the rocker shafts in, I'll have the heads built out and I can finish up with the valve covers and then the intake manifold. So that's how that's done.
Everything looks like it's ready to go. Oh, he did do some here, it looks like. Yeah, there is some weld through on there, but this needs weld through on there.
Okay, I gotta ask because Will did bring up to me that you seem to bring up these kind of random, flashbacky, not necessarily relevant things that seem to be there just so you can make fun of Will. Yeah. So is this scene actually relevant?
This is all a conspiracy to put Will down. Grow up. Center console 3-piece brackets. These are my original ones that came out of the car. How do you know those are located in the proper place, that they got transferred correctly? And how do you know that they are straight up and down to the rest of the car?
Because we've already put the console on it, that's it.
You did?
I did.
You mocked the console on there?
Yep.
Oh, well. By all means, can I see that?
Where'd you put it? It was sitting right over here.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
thanks, Addy.
Here comes Bam
See?
Bam.
There you go.
How about the fact that it's relevant from the standpoint of it gets a console in it, and my audience at home that deserve to know this, how to install the brackets on a new floor so that it's level in the car. Do I do it to install? Well, yeah. Sure, I could use any clip to show this, but I'm not gonna lie. I don't want to end up like that, all right? The truth shall set you free. Is that okay with you, Reverend Aaron?
Sure, not a reverend.
Priest?
Not that either.
Pastor?
No.
What do you want to be?
I mean, right now, just
home.
Yeah.
So everything is welded in place. All the transfers have been made. The holes, the provisions for the plug welds are in place. Would you feel at this point that is ready to go into my 1970 Dodge Charger RT 440 automatic 727 torque flight, bucket seat, white interior, white top, white C-stripe, not a Bumblebee, air conditioning, 6-way seat AM 8-track car.
When we started this, I already told you it was ready to go in.
Yeah, I know, but I've
So
already
why do you
noticed a
need to
couple
hear
of
it again?
problems with it.
You didn't
so.
notice any problem.
Okay, so if you're all done with your silliness, can we just catch people up, say where we're at with this? Oh boy. No, this is cool. This is cool. This is entirely unreal.
Don Coscarelli's newest
new
book called
Fiction, spelled with a PH.
Yeah.
So these are stories that are inspired by the Phantasm universe that he created.
Yep.
And so he's got, it is a series of like.
Oh, what's that?
That appears to be a signature from
A
Mr.
hand-signed
It does,
copy?
as though you were a friend of his.
Yeah, well, you can't buy him, so I'm going to have to assume that I am a friend. Oh,
Wow.
I'll be reading this tonight when I get home, my friend.
And a name drop and a book drop.
Well, only because it was made out to me. I'm gonna have to talk to him about that. I want to say 2 ice tray next time. So.
Yeah, get that request in now.
And then he get boy. Is that hard on your ears?
That was just loud.
The two-tone on the doors, we've talked about it before. The car is a B7 blue, so you have to paint the perimeter of the door B7 blue. But it's also got white interior door trim panels and white upper door trim panels. So what do you have to do? You have to mask off that white before you clear it. Wait, come back and paint white everywhere on the door that's supposed to be, that's gonna have a white trim panel up against it. The demarcation line, can I use that word with you?
I would prefer it.
The demarcation line is the weather strip that seals the door to the body. On the inside portion of it's going to be the door trim color. On the outside portion of that weather strip is going to be the body color. You will not see that on an e-body, regardless of the color combinations. The door jambs are the exact same color as the overall outside of the body.
Okay, so now that we're done with all the nerdery, I hope, because, well, It's
Kind of what I enjoy
I,
doing.
I know you do, but I like this
People at
part.
home
I like
think it's pretty impressive.
I love to see the color go on, and especially this color. It's amazing. This is my favorite part.
Yeah, you're basically everybody at a car show. You're that aimless guy that walks through the car show, sees a pretty car, goes, "Oh God, that's beautiful. Who painted it?" It doesn't matter who painted it. It's who prepped it. Who did the engine build? Who did the transmission? Who rebuilt the suspension? Who made all the pieces right? Who put the upholstery on it? Will rides around on everybody's coattails. You see the #1 painter click, #1 painter in social media, #1 painter does it again, #1 painter does it again, like some kind of a cover of a Batman comic book, like he's a superhero. He hasn't done anything. Why are you interrupting my scene?
I'm here to defend myself.
Defend yourself from what?
From you, because every time you film about painting and I'm not involved in it, you take a shot at me.
Did I take a shot?
Well, I mean,
I don't
yeah,
need
a
your
second
input
ago.
Yeah,
on
and that's
it.
why I'm here, to protect myself. This is exactly why I'm here. What in the hell is with the Sanford & Son music while I'm wiping down a car?
Well, first off, I haven't seen the edit. Is there Sanford & Son? Did you put Sanford & Son?
I didn't do it. It was probably one of the editors.
A great show, by the way.
It was, yeah.
Red Fox, yeah. What's your problem with it?
Oh, I don't have a problem. I don't think I've ever even seen it.
Yeah, well, he's a junk dealer and you... Okay, in fairness to my little friend Will, go right ahead and tell everybody what you're doing.
I apply 5 to 7 coats of the B7 blue and give it about 10 to 15 minutes flash time in between each coat.
And after we have applied all of the base coat, what do we do next?
At that point, we're ready to clear. So I go in the booth, I tack the whole car down, and then apply 3 coats of clear with about 45 minutes to an hour in between each coat, depending on the temperature.
You ever have a problem with solvent trapping if you're going to finish base coating and then immediately just put clear on it? Because I said, what do you do next? And what you really do next is you give it a little purge time, right?
Well,
because if you do, you can go ahead and tell everybody at home.
well, after I finish my last coat of color, by the time I go out of the booth, mix up my clear, I'm ready to go back in and apply it.
How long does it take you to mix up the clear?
Well, a lot of times we're filming, so about a half hour.
So you can mix your clear up faster than any other painter in the world.
Probably just as...
Oh boy, what's your problem?
No, you're doing the My Cousin Vinny thing again. I finally
He
started
is,
pointing
isn't
this.
he?
Yeah, it's so somehow the laws of physics are different in your
paint booth.
mixing booth. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
talk to us about the clear.
I use a DCU 2002. I do 3 coats, 45 minutes to an hour between each coat. So after my 3rd coat's done, I let the booth run overnight, and then we cut and buff it about a week or 2 after that.
And what exactly color is this car, would you call it?
Well, sir, it's B7.
Technically, it's EB7.
EB7, and why is the E in front of it instead of the B, and why wouldn't you know that, but go ahead.
Because it came out in 1969.
That's right, that first letter represents the year of the car's E, alphanumeric code for 1969. And just curious, what color is this?
Blue.
There it is, folks, it's blue.
Metallic.
Yeah, metallic, good.
Metallic.
Yeah, boy, not much gets past you.
I was curious because I know Mark has been on you about painting the roofs on all the cars. So like,
Yeah, that's just not going to happen. It gets a vinyl top, it's cleared, it's protected.
And what's your reason for it?
There's a shortage of material, so I'm saving you money. I can save the leftover paint for the next EB7 car that I have.
Or the next car you have to paint 3 times to get right.
Huh.
After the break, Mark and Aaron cover the assembly on the 1970 Charger RT.
All of the trim wasn't fit to the bodywork.
But will Mark's critical eye turn to his assembly tech when Brian takes a deep dive into assembly line markings?
Brian needs a little bit more experience with those stamps.
And with a drive test approaching, does Mark need to have a word with his producer?
The equipment that you guys destroyed.
Find out when Graveyard Carz returns.
This car was done a long time ago before our new body men that are here. And so all of the trim wasn't fit to the bodywork. And we talked about it recently, how you have to take the molding that you're gonna put on the car, you have to build your filler around it, you have to build your metal around it. So it just took us a lot longer to pre-fit the back window moldings. Then of course you have to do the final adjustment on the trunk lid, which was no problem. But you see them, they are putting on the trim, tightening down the final trim for the vinyl top. They're tightening up the deck lid. They are aligning the deck lid into position and tightening it down in preparation for the stripe. So these are the final fitment pieces, but because it wasn't done before the car went through metal, they had a little bit longer time, but they got it and it came out beautiful.
Nice.
So today we're going to be putting the finish panel on our 1970 Charger RT. Now the finish panels are not available new, so you have to fully restore the original component. That involves stripping everything off of it, having it sit out to get the aluminum polished, and then once we get the polish done, we send it somewhere else to have it anodized. The part that is anodized would just be this part that's shiny in the middle. Once it gets done with that process, we bring it over here, we paint it with trim black to match the factory look, and we do get new emblems. We have a nice new Charger and a nice new RT emblem. This actually attaches with 17 different fasteners. Those were all restored in-house as well. These are all original fasteners. So getting all 17 of these to fit in the holes at the same time is the trick. And when I pre-fit it, I started with the bottom. It's a good sound. I think once you have the bottom 9 in place, the top 8 seem to line up a little bit easier than the bottoms do. Okay, so now we have them all kind of in place. We'll try to get a couple of fasteners on the back side to start holding it in position. There's 17 of them. I'll try to get some strategic positions tightened down around here. Once I get 3 or 4 of them tightened down, it'll help the process. I've also got to add a little bit of what's called strip caulk or caulking, or some people refer to it as dum-dum. It's a little sticky substance, and we can wrap that around the stud on the back side of this trim panel, and then we put our fastener on there, and that'll seal that hole off to prevent water from getting in the trunk. We used extremely long studs on these fasteners, and it takes all day to get one of the nuts in place. It's a good workout though. So at this point, I've got 3 fasteners started on the back side, tightened down. Everything else looks like it's gonna be in place just fine. So now I've just gotta go through and put 14 more pieces of caulking and 14 more nuts on, and we'll have our panel installed. So I'll see you in an hour. Some of them are hard to reach because you have to get underneath these taillight assemblies, and it's almost hard to see what you're doing. Sometimes you just climb in the trunk. That's the nice thing about these old cars. You can get a lot of bodies in the trunk.
Ah, my favorite part, the decals. It transforms that, that.
A minute ago, your favorite part was the paint. Now it's the decals, so it's anything shiny, right, Rupert?
Yeah, basically.
Great. Yeah, decals are pretty, guys. It's nice for me to watch Dylan coming along, right? Because he's done a pretty good job with Brian on all the prepping and learning how to condition parts, get ready for stuff. But to learn the decals, like my own fruit of my loin, my seed, Alyssa, it took her a while. Her and Will ruined the decal on the Phantom Cuda, just destroyed it. Will is the worst decal installer on the planet today.
You're picking on him again. It was just here.
Yeah, that was about paint. This is about decals.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Give him a break.
I got a lot more. The last mechanical part that Brian has to install before he does his undercarriage markings, all of his assembly line markings, and his information labels is the 2998-956.
Radiator.
Radiator. That is a correct radiator for all 440, 426 Hemi, 1970 E and B body. Bet you didn't know that, did you?
I did not.
The one you see him installing is a replica of the original, which is actually better than the original. It's a Glenray radiator, and I am not kidding. My job is to educate my audience, so I don't care if you think I'm plugging something. We buy these things. It is the most accurate example of a replica, I think, of anything. I mean, it is as good or better than the original one. So, and I would defy even the great Tony D'Agostino to set the two side by side and tell me the difference.
That interior is gorgeous. I mean, that dash, and I gotta say, the motorized slider, that is amazing.
I would like to point out
that.
Instrument Specialties did all the wood grain on that one.
Ah.
Yeah, they did our gauges and our wood grain, and we just did the paint work on it. And that wood grain is accurate. And a lot of the decals that you put on, that some people put on, we used to before we knew who Instrument Specialties was, isn't even the right grain. So I'd like to point that out. But yes, those are beautiful shots. Question for you. The equipment for the car, the camera that you guys destroyed, you and Tiny, and wiped out, and now we have to shoot everything out of the back of an old Dodge truck.
It's all
What
repaired.
was that?
except
It isn't
for
repaired.
one-
All I do is trip over it all day long.
We just got to get a new gimbal.
I bought the gimbal. I bought all of this
broke.
stuff. It broke because you weren't being a good
Now we just need to
co-pilot.
replace it.
If this was Top Gun, everybody'd be dead.
It's literally one thing to replace, and we could be out doing driving footage again.
One thing to replace.
That's it.
In addition to the $250,000 for the stuff that
wasn't
I
that
bought
much.
the first time. $150,000.
No.
It was.
Go ahead.
Well, then
Yeah,
why am I
lower.
paying $150,000 for equipment I can't use?
That was-
And a totaled car.
You haven't got the car fixed yet?
No, I haven't got the car fixed yet. I don't have any money. I spent it all on the equipment.
You've got everything here to fix it.
You're the worst human.
No, I love this. I love the learning bits, the educational bits when we get them.
We haven't done this in a while. These are the markings, the assembly line markings. And I thought that we would just go ahead and roll on it because Brian is teaching Dylan, so he might as well be, a surrogate. Can I use that word?
Sure.
They're a surrogate for our audience to learn, right? The only thing I might add is Brian needs a little bit more experience with those stamps.
I agree with Mark. I do have some learning to do when it comes to the stamps. But hey, to stay out of Mark's crosshairs, and in the event that you can't read them, why don't I walk you through them? Hey, the 902 that you see on the flange of the third member represents the date that the third member was assembled. The 930 that you see on the axle represents the date that the axle was assembled. 902, September 2nd, 1969, and 930, September 30th, 1969. Both precede the scheduled production date of the car. The B that you see me applying represents that this housing is a B-body housing. The X is just an inspector's mark, probably indicating that everything is assembled correctly on the rear axle, but we really don't know. Hey, the three black marks indicate that this is a 489 case with the 323 gears and the large yoke. The orange swipe means it's a sure grip. The orange again here is also an indicator that it's sure grip oil going into the rear end. The blue mark just means it's been filled to capacity, topped off, ready to go. The mark that I'm putting on now indicates that the park brake has been installed and adjusted. Just for the record, we have seen these in white as well. Since I have the car up in the air right now, I'm gonna go ahead and put all of my part number labels in place, even though I haven't quite finished with all of the markings. The brown paint mark that you see on the torsion bar itself indicates which bar that it is. In this case, it gets a brown swipe, which indicates a 780 and 781 torsion bar. This red swipe on the boot just means that it's been installed and filled with grease. The white daubs indicate that the nuts have been torqued down and the cotter pin has been installed. Hey, we've seen some front ends with none of these marks, but we've seen others with white marks, red marks, green marks, you name it. I tend to do the colors that Mark can see easily. Hey, one of the things I enjoy the most is installing the information labels. This information label right here tells you how to manually open and close the headlight doors should the headlight motor fail. 1970 only, by the way. Hey, listen, most of these information labels are very self-explanatory, but just like with the paint marks, I'm gonna go ahead and walk you through them. So this label here, the ethylene glycol label, or antifreeze as we know it, this is installed on every car I've ever worked on here. Typically what you'll see is the date and day, well essentially the day that the antifreeze was actually added to the vehicle for the first time. This is a part number label for the positive battery cable. And this is the part number label for the negative battery cable. Just a side note, we've seen these in different locations on the cable over the years, but this is where the boss wants to see them. The emission decal that I'm installing now tells you a lot about the engine. It tells us what the ignition timing should be, the air to fuel mixture, and the base idle. The last few labels that I install under the hood are the main engine harness, the forward light harness, the air cleaner service decal, alternator inspector decal, and that is everything under the hood. So moving on to the body, we have the very important door VIN label. Oftentimes this will be painted over or is just plain missing. This is actually a really important label because oftentimes the DMV will look at it and nothing else. Tire pressure decal, engine starting instructions, locking ignition instruction sleeve. Now Mark has informed me that I've installed that upside down, and upon further review in the field, he got me on that one. I think he's right. The last thing that I do on the interior is the replica factory warranty card, which goes into the glove box. The trunk really doesn't have a lot in it. We have the jacking instructions, which also incorporates how to nail down your spare tire, how that thing installs in there, and the jack base instructions. And last but not least are the Scat Pack Bs. These came on all 1970 Dodge performance cars. It's just a little way to let everybody know you mean business. The air temp decal that you see me installing here on the right rear window also came on all cars with factory air, or H51 cars. And they always go on the right rear glass.
Still to come, Mark takes the 1970 Charger RT on a road test.
It's 104 degrees today. It is nasty out.
Will this road test go smoothly and efficiently?
The steering wheel feels good. I gotta set the idle down a little bit.
Or will being behind the wheel in a hot Charger go to Mark's head?
I don't need the aggravation. I'm a lazy slow paint fire.
Find out when Graveyard Carz returns.
My favorite part of the build, ladies and gentlemen, the driving footage.
The paint and the decals were your favorite. The driving footage used to be my favorite part before you guys destroyed Graveyard Carz and set us back a half a century. Now we, instead of a $300,000 piece of equipment to film our driving with, we have to shoot everything on a VHS camera from Kmart.
No, we're using the same cameras.
Okay, folks. Heading out on a road test in a 1970 Dodge Charger RT, my favorite of all favorites. And this one's a beauty. B7 blue, white vinyl top, beautiful white interior, loaded with options, air conditioning, AM 8-track, tick-tock tack, console shift, wood grain wheel, you name it, she's got it. They've done a systems check inside. I like to do my own systems check because I'm the guy that's going to be out on the road with my life in my own hands. So, to begin, I like to just start the car. Tap the gas one time, hit the key. And there it is, running good. Listening for any engine noises or something weird or unusual vibrations. Feels great. Feels like an old 440. It would appear that our tachometer is working great. And the clock is set and working great. Okay, fuel working, although a little low. Temperature works great, oil pressure great, and charging system great. I like to turn the headlights on and check the charging system because if there's a failure, it'll be under a load. So there's my lights. Compensated for it, went right back up. Beautiful. Now we're going to run through the heat and cooling, the HVAC, if you will, and just, so those are working. There's our max AC, heat, defrost, and fan. Pull all those back off. That system is all working great. The functionality of the shifter is important. So We push this button down, go into reverse. The button should stay down as it's a lockout. Into neutral. RPMs come up, might be idling a little fast, but I don't have the air on right now so I can hear things. And there's our drive. Row through the gears just like you're out on the road. There's low, click it up once, button comes out, that's second. Click it up again, the button comes out, that's third. Now that brings back good memories. Oh, I was a shifting machine back in the day. Okay, everything seems to be in order for a systems check. We're gonna head out, leave it in drive, and just take off, see what we got. All right, left turn signal indicator working. Just check the right one while I'm here. Yep, we're good there. Okay, there's a nice first gear shift, second gear shift. Hey, not bad. Air conditioning's blowing nice and cold. Not ice cold, they don't get ice cold anymore. It's 104 degrees today. It is nasty out. So I'm saying that air coming through there's probably around 60, which is great on a 100-degree day. All right, right turn. Steering wheel feels good. I got to set the idle down a little bit. Idling a little bit quick. I'm gonna row through these gears here. Yep, we got us a phone call coming in.
Hey, I got a question for you. When I call you and it just rings and rings and rings and rings and then it just finally goes to voicemail, is that what that is?
I don't want to talk to you. I don't mean that bad. The only reason you ever call is because you want more money to buy more equipment that you can destroy and I can't use on a road test. So all things being equal, I appreciate your interest and admire your enthusiasm. I think I'll be fine on my own. Name of the movie?
Can we just watch the footage?
All right, I'm gonna row through the gears starting out in low hole. That's low. Watch the click. There it is. And now we're in drive. Beautiful. All three gears and in order. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, this track's pretty good. These old integral steerings, I've mentioned it before in other cars, they're a little on the sloppy side. Like Sloppy Joe's with Adam Sandler, remember that? Sloppy Joe, sloppy Joe. Chris Farley. That's good stuff. Let's try the kick down linkage. Hell yeah, what you gonna do, Mary? Hey, that runs good. That runs like an old 440 does. A Charger is a very rich car compared to a lot of the Mopars. It's a bigger car, and if you look at the platforms, when you go to buy parts, it'll say, well, B-body of Plymouth, B-body Dodge, but then they'll say, except Charger, because it's on its own. It's a luxury, it's a true version, I think, of a gentleman's luxury car versus a GTX, which I don't think is, unless it happens to be loaded with much stuff, that still drives like a Roadrunner. This car, when I drive it around, it feels good. It's solid. There's no vibrations. There's nothing weird happening with it. It holds the road well. It's a little cushy. They all are. They're all a little cushy. But for me, especially since I get to drive around my old stomping grounds, this is an absolute treat to be able to drive this car.
Like a sneak preview for when your car
is done. A
sneak
preview, because the next 70 Charger you see coming through here is a burnt orange, white top, burnt orange interior. That's a flashback to 1978 for me, and I guarantee you, all of you at home. Turn the radio on.
An emergency. We have been followed by official news and instructions. This concludes this test of the
emergency broadcast message there. You probably know I'm out driving around in a case snorkeler. Second. Whew, I need to get something for that whiplash. Hey, you know what? This thing drives great. Very nice, no rattles. Brian is doing a phenomenal job. Hang fire. Mick Jagger, hang fire. I don't need the aggravation, I'm a lazy slow, hang fire. Or the Elmer Fudd version, fire. Robin Williams. All right, brakes feel nice. I got a good full pedal. Okay, we got our locking instructions, column lock instructions here. The starting instructions, very nice. We just don't hang them on the turn signal right now because they'll blow off when the door comes open. Ashtray, check. cigarette later. Let's just push that bad boy in. Let's see if that bad boy's glowing. Oh, it's got the glow, baby. Gots to glow.
So I have a little like obligation, like just to ask this, but you know, you're looking at the camera to your right, and you're trying to talk directly to it to give the audience the feel that they're sitting there in the
That's the
passenger
purpose
seat.
behind doing it. Yes,
Sure,
it's
sure.
acting.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah.
that's true.
No, it's fine.
Make them
But
feel like they're there.
Yeah, but you know, like in reality, there's nobody actually there.
I'm going to do a radius check on the steering. Turns nicely in the road right here. You see me going around in cycles. Now what I got to make sure of is it has the same turning radius if I go the other direction. Yeah, Aaron, there's nobody in the passenger seat.
Good. So that leads me to my next question. You call somebody a knucklehead.
Feels good. Got to get out of this knucklehead's way.
Is that acting?
When I called the guy the knucklehead that almost cut me off, no, that was real. I was trying to do my radio run out and he almost hit me, so I had to stop doing the turn.
Okay, because I looked at the B-roll and I looked at the drone footage. I didn't see anybody around you during that period.
There wasn't a great big truck coming down the road?
No.
Defrost, close the ashtray, horn, honk if you're somebody's in your way.
Do you have any idea how difficult you make my job?
Yeah, I don't care. Turn the wipers on at the risk of dirtying up my windshield. Oh, look at that. My dad was dead, so my wipers didn't work. Window roll up and down, check that. You know, there I am, I'm looking at that camera again like there's somebody over there. What's up? I was told the other day that I don't look my age. I told that to my wife and she goes, well, you don't look your age. And then she laughed. So, I think I get where she's going with that. All right. Hey, we're gaining on it, folks. We got a car ready to deliver. This is fantastic. I checked that four-way flasher. Very unique in 1970. The four-way flasher is up on the column, where previously on 69 and earlier, it was a button up on the dash. But when they put the locking steering wheel in place and the reverse lockout linkage, they added the four-way flasher. Looks good. So, fantastic. Remember that, fantastic? It was Tim Meadows, right?
Okay, I've heard the fantastic thing before. Can we please just wrap this thing up? My legs are hurting here.
I got a 70 Charger ready to go home to an owner who I have a feeling is going to be pretty darn happy with it when it gets there. Now I'm going to get out all cool and stuff. Here comes a, oh no, come around the shop, please. Take a look at this guy. Stick your face in here. Right in here. No, right here. Yeah. Who's that look like to you guys? Huh? Night Slasher from Cobra? You hate me, don't you, pig? I hate this car, pig. I hate the color, pig. God, that guy, that was his whole claim to fame. What was his problem with officers? It's sick, man.
Hey, you know, just curious. You got any upcoming visits with your psychiatrist?
As a matter of fact, I do. Mr. I'm better than everybody else because I don't have to seek any kind of help or any kind of therapy or anything like that.
Just
then why would you film it all the time if you aren't making fun of me?
Evidence.